So now they've got to start from deep in their end of the field, and Garrison Hurst takes advantage of it. He takes the handoff, sweeps to his right, gets to the 20. He's in the 30. Needs to cut in. He comes back up the right sideline. Breaks his third tackle. Comes down to the 30. He's down to the 20. He's down to the 10. He's down to the 5. He's into the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown! 49ers! 96-yard run from scrimmage. Garrison Hurst breaking tackle after tackle. Sweeps down the sideline. Throws off bodies like clothes after a marathon.
Young, back to throw. In trouble, he's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again, to the 35, cuts back at the 30, to the 20, the 50, the 10. He died. Touchdown, 49ers.
Third down, Alex takes the snap. Alex looking down in post, and it's good. Touchdown! Touchdown, 49ers!
It is second down. Ryan takes the snap, throws the slant to the left side. It's Russell, intercepted! The 49ers pick it, and Navarro Bowman is redemption! Navarro Bowman running it all the way for the touchdown! No greater redemption!
San Francisco 49ers, we can do whatever we want.
Click, click. Boom! What's going on, faithfuls? It's your boys, Mike and Tony from the Niners crew. Guys, we are here. We are back, and we are live. Today, I'm going to be picking the mind of our resident GM. Tony's been making his tour. I've seen him on Wayne's show, and I've seen him on some other people's shows throughout the offseason. But, guys, we're bringing him back home right here, right now. Tony, what's good with you, bro? How you feeling, man?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm sitting outside. Normally, I'm recording the kick it in the Kia, the party in the Palisade, whatever you guys call it. Normally this is the time that I'm doing that, but I said, you know what? We haven't had Tony on in a while. We got to go live. I'm basically going to ask you a bunch of questions, basically from the time the Super Bowl ended up until where we are today. I'm going to pick your mind and see if we can figure out where you think the team should be going in this upcoming draft. Is that cool?
No one's going to figure that out because everything's all screwed up. But go ahead, yeah.
I mean, I either the Niners have made themselves the most invisible team in this draft, where we can't identify what their top priority is, or they have no idea where they're going. Like, this is either a genius move that the team has made, or we're in a lot of trouble. And I don't think there's anything in between. I can't tell you where we need to go in the draft. Wayne and I have been doing mock drafts, and I think we've selected a different position like every time, and we've done 5 of them. So I don't know. But let's start with the Super Bowl, Tony. The Super Bowl ends. The 49ers lose again in overtime to the Chiefs again. Kyle Shanahan can't seem to get over this hump. So the dust settles. You get all the emotions out of it and everything like that. How do you feel about this team post-Super Bowl, as far as just who the 49ers are and where they rank amongst the rest of the teams in the entire NFL? Forget the NFC for a second. If you want to give me NFC rankings and then NFL overall rankings, tell me where you think they fall and just how you feel about the team.
And that's just straight after the Super Bowl, you said, or after the
since the Super Bowl up until now? Yeah, since the Super Bowl, yeah.
Listen, I mean, they only lost the one piece. I still think they're in contention. I still think right now, on paper, they're the best team in the NFC. Other teams made moves in free agency that might have closed the gap a little bit, but I still think right now, if you held the gun to my head, I would say they're still the better team in the NFC, if not top 2, maybe 3.
Top 2, maybe 3 in the NFC. How many teams in the AFC do you have ahead of the Niners?
Well, I mean, obviously the Chiefs until you beat them. Baltimore's tough. They didn't beat them last year. Off the top of my head with the AFC, those 2 would be the teams in the AFC. Just right. Hypothetically.
Okay. It's weird because, like, after the Super Bowl, this is going to sound crazy. I don't feel like the Chiefs are better than the Niners. I feel like the roster of the 49ers is better than the Chiefs. Now, maybe we didn't get all the answers we needed, maybe we didn't do some things right. But I guess that's going to transition to the next question here. With the roster, I understand that some tweaks need to happen, and we lost some players. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But if you get away from the roster, what coaching staff changes would you want to see? And now it doesn't necessarily mean get rid of coaches or bring in coaches, but maybe you would like to see a different defensive front, or maybe you would like to see more aggression and more blitzes, or maybe more of a certain type of coverage or more man or so. Like what kind of changes would you like to see happen with the coaching staff in particular?
On the defensive side of the ball, I would say I think they have to start not adjusting, but maybe adding, sprinkling in different looks. As far as the back end, I don't know, but maybe I think with the wide 9 alignment, I think it's a very favorable formation to run against. Like we say, the Niners use teams' aggression against them. Teams are using the Niners' aggression against them. So potentially like a little change or add a little twist to the defensive philosophy, and that's why they brought in Staley. They promoted Sorensen from in-house. So I think the main principles of that defense will remain, but I do think you will see some tendencies from Staley as far as maybe some Fangio concepts on the back end of the defense. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now. As far as the offensive side of the ball, I think that Kyle should bump somebody up. Like they brought in Mick Lombardi, who doesn't have a title, but they should at least bump him to a coordinator spot, maybe an offensive coordinator. Even though he doesn't do that, he makes a passing game and a run game. But I would like them to add a coordinator, not a big name, so that's why I mentioned Mick Lombardi, but someone to help Kyle. And the other thing I wanted to say was double back on the defensive side of the ball. With the addition of Staley and the younger coach in Sorensen, who was the defensive coordinator, I like that he brought in Staley to make Kyle focus on strictly the offensive side of the ball, because I think we could all agree a lot of part of the season Kyle got involved with the game planning of the defense.
Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. Are you cool with how the defense played as a whole?
I don't think the defense looked like the 49ers defense last season at all. The pass rush wasn't there. They weren't flying around swarming, if you will, under previous defensive coordinators. It seems like they were in their heads and thinking before reacting, so there's a slight hesitancy in the defense and the second and third levels of this defense. So that's what I want them to get back to: see it, believe it, and react. You know what I'm saying? There's no second guessing themselves and their skill sets. It kind of feel under looks that it slowed the second level of the defense down, especially like Greenlaw, Warner. The pass rush wasn't there. There wasn't as much as the stunt game as far as your TE and ET stunts. So I want to get back to that 49er defense, and hopefully Staley combined with Sorensen, they could do that and bring it back to the level that it was playing at.
Okay. I like that. You said that you would like to have an offensive coordinator for Kyle Shanahan. Now that does not mean you want Kyle to give up play calling responsibilities. I don't think that any of us
just someone to help him
want that to happen. Okay.
No, I don't think none of these head coaches that are play callers are going to give up the play calling responsibility. LaFleur has it in Green Bay. McCarthy has it in Dallas. McDaniel has it in Miami. All these guys keep that. They don't give that up. They don't relinquish that. But someone to be a second set of eyes. I'm not saying Kyle will always listen to him, but someone to say, yo, look on this formation. Go back to the tablet. Look what they're doing when you show this. It's something that's seen from above that maybe Kyle can't see field level. So, I mean, it's something little like that. That's what I mean it as.
I like that. I can respect that. Okay. All right, and that's why I'm asking. I want to make sure that we're clear. We're all on the same page. You know what I mean? I don't want there to be any confusion about what's going on. All right, so that's the coaching staff. What about the roster, man? So again, since the Super Bowl up until today, take a look at free agency and tell me what your overall thoughts are. I'm not going to focus on any player in particular, but I do want you to focus on departures as well as incoming players. How do you think the team did as far as either maintaining the level of character and play versus the pieces that they lost to maybe lose a little bit too much or something? What are your thoughts?
I think they're in a transition right now. I think they're in a transition on the defensive side of the ball. If you look at their offseason as far as the defensive line, they lost the two biggest defensive tackles they have on their roster and went with more stout 6'3", 6'4" guys rather than 6'6", 6'7" guys. I've been saying this as far as having an interior alignment, that's all. I'm not a fan of it because they tend to play with high pad level. So they bring in a Jordan Elliott, a Malik Collins, who are more stout guys, 6'3", 6'4". Malik Collins is more of a pass rusher, swim move, stump move. They bring in Jordan Elliott, who is more of a run stuffer, who does offer you something in the pass rush. But clearly what they did is essentially this free agency class gave them full flexibility to be able to do what they want to do in the draft and not have to target someone and say, listen, I don't know who's starting at right tackle. I don't know who's starting at defensive tackle. I don't know who's starting here. They're not in that position. And that's one thing about this regime or front office, if you will, that they're very good at. They go to free agency, they sign maybe one big guy and then like 6 or 7 other guys, right? And they fill all the immediate openings or holes that are on their current roster. So if the league started tomorrow, they could play football and field 2 starting 11-man units on both sides of the ball with no questions asked. So if we're going to ask each other ourselves, not just each other, but if we're going to ask ourselves the downside and the flaw of the 49ers team or roster, if you will, it is clearly the depth. And some of these picks will be contributors, starters. Some of these picks will be addition and upgrading the depth of the roster with the defensive line, with the offensive line. If they decide to go with tackle and they want to bring him in and he competes and he beats out McKivitz. So now you're strengthening your depth and potentially your starters going forward, right? Because Dre Greenlaw is out, right? So what did they do? They went out and signed Devontae Campbell, who is in the latter part of his career, has shown the tendency to be a solid linebacker. Now, if Greenlaw comes back, I think it's an upgraded linebacking core over last year with those 3 as the starters over Burks, Warner, and Greenlaw. So the problem is with those 2 trades that they did between Trey Lance and CMC, they lost probably 6 picks. Well, 6, maybe 6 or 7 between 2 trades that they could have used towards refilling the middle of the roster. So that's where these signings come into play, and that's where it's important that they're adding these pieces. Say, all right, come on, guys, let's roll the balls out and let's see who's going to earn this spot. Listen, Graham could beat Campbell right out. Rivers could beat Campbell out. It's no lock saying that he's the starter. They're going to come in there and compete. And the winner of that position is going to come in there and take that position. But from seeing it on paper and knowing the players that they're bringing in, it's kind of like saying, okay, I feel good because if we had to field the team tomorrow, they could field the team, and I think they could win going forward. And as far as what I touched on about transitioning, the transition with this roster started this year. They chose to move on from Eric Armstead. So that's phase 1. Phase 2, it's going to be another player, potentially 2 next year. If Ayuk, they could agree to terms to Ayuk and they could bring him back, I think we all know who probably the target will be next year as the phase 2 piece of the transition. But they're very good in what they do. I'm not saying they're very good in like nailing the replacement, but they're good in lining the pieces up to try to supplement the piece that they have to move on from.
Mm-hmm.
And like push comes to shove, right? Just think about this. Every game last year, we said the corners. Oh, Ward, Lenore. Oh, don't bring Thomas in. The team's going to go out. If I'm the offensive coordinator, I'm going after Thomas. Like all this stuff, right? Target Thomas. Well, guess what? Right now, Thomas is not the number 3 corner. I think they're going to roll the balls out and let the 3 guys that they brought in compete for the number 3 corner. And the guy that they drafted last year compete for the number 3 corner. So it all falls under adding depth to this team and strengthening the middle of the roster. And I like what they're doing. I'm very happy that they're doing it, and it's impressive how they're able to make these moves and not shell out money, like not saying, being desperate and saying, oh man, we really need corner depth. Let's call up the kid that they signed for, I forgot his damn name. The kid that they signed from the Saints to give him a 4-year deal worth X, Y, and Z. No.
Alexander.
Huh?
Vaughn Alexander?
No, the corner.
Yidam.
Yidam, yeah. Right?
Yidam, yeah.
Yeah, they have the ability to go out and find these upcoming veterans that are still not at the peaks of their careers, but are looking for an opportunity to get a payday. And that's what they're good at. So we're going to see how it works this year. And most importantly, like I said before, and we talked about this last year, there was no glaring need last year other than one position group, and that was the kicker. They had to get a kicker in that draft. That was the glaring need. This year, there's no glaring need.
Okay. All right. So then Wayne and I did a mock draft yesterday. And we started by trading Brandon Ayuk. I'm going to be honest with you, man. I've been saying over and over that I think that if there's a wide receiver to trade, I think Brandon Ayuk is probably more valuable to trade as far as what we can get for him. But I felt like Debo is more of a crucial or critical piece to this offense and this success. I want to ask you that question now. Today, the news broke that they signed Trent Williams. You take it for what it's worth. Trent Taylor, the wide receiver and return guy. But after we traded Ayuk, and I'm letting it settle in, I don't know how confident I am with a wide receiving core led by Deebo Samuel and Juwan Jennings. I don't know how confident I am in a wide receiver core led by Ayuk and Jennings. Which receiver do you think is more pivotal to the success of the long-term success of this offense? And long-term meaning like this year. Not can you win 1 or 2 games without either one of them. I think the answer to that is yes. You can win a couple of games without Deebo.
Long-term, you would have to talk about the Deebo situation as far as durability and extending his career, playing past his current contract with San Francisco. Very physical player, runs through the wall, he'll run you over, all that good stuff. We know how he is and what he's like. And we know the element that he brings to this offense, right? But as far as extending and a piece to build with extending your quarterback going into the future, I would say Ayuk long term. But there is a number, and there's the number that the 49ers are not going to go that much over to extend him. Now, coincidental, they sniffed around Tyler Boyd, and this came out of the blue like 2 weeks ago. I'm not saying he's a good replacement, but they're sniffing around wide receivers where if they got the feeling that there's going to be no budging on their side, they're lining up their ducks in case they need to make a move. They're not going to go into this saying, we're going to move on and just play it by ear. They brought people in for visits. They brought a receiver. I thought they brought Brian Thomas in for a visit, a 30 visit. They met with receivers at the combine. So they're doing their due diligence. And now the question is, well, how do you know which receiver is it for? Is it going to be this year for Ayuk, or could it be potentially next year for Debo? So that's where the full flexibility comes in for this team. They don't have to – they could do whatever they want right now. But if the blueprint is there and they're going to start sensing that the camp doesn't want to budge on what they want, what they're asking for, they'll go, okay, well, let's start doing this to prep for this. And then next year we keep Debo, or you might not have to keep Debo. You might not have to get rid of Debo. So everything's up in the air. I mean, they're the ones that only know. Obviously, we don't. So it's like a guessing game. We got to try to figure it out, right?
Well, and so that's kind of where I'm at, right? I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, Tony, because in my opinion, if you are not going to be able to work out a deal with Ayuk, don't do like the Giants did with Saquon Barkley. Get something for him. Let him go now before the draft. That's how I feel. And I know that's not how the Niners normally do things. The extensions come in August, well after the draft and shit like that, right? But I don't feel like that. This is a young first-round pick wide receiver, super talented, only getting better year after year. He's improved every single year in every stat and metric that you could possibly think of. And he's still option 3, option 4 on this team. Let him go somewhere where he can be number 1, but more importantly, where you can get the best value out of him. You don't want to tag him and then let him walk for a third next year, right? Like his value is never going to be higher than it is right now. And albeit, I know that's going to be pending a contract and pending an extension. I understand all that, but like, I still don't think you're going to get anything any higher for Brandon Ayuk than what you're going to get right now today. If they have to make a decision on him in particular, do you think that it should happen before / during the draft? Because after the draft, I feel like he's here this whole year.
Well, I mean, listen, they said it themselves. Anyone is tradable on this team, right? They'll listen to anything on anyone. I think maybe not Purdy, maybe not Bosa, maybe not certain players, but I think they will sit and listen to see what the value is of the player and where the league feels and what they want or willing to give up, right? Clearly, if there's someone close, say, we'll give you a third rounder for Ayuk, a third rounder this year, a third rounder next year, and that's our offer. The phone's going to be hung up on, and he's not going to be dealt. If a team blows them away with multiple picks, high picks, 1 plus a 2 and a 3 next year, or whatever it is, they make him an offer that's very hard to say no to, then you would have to sit down and you would have to talk with your cap guys and their agent and reach out one more time and say, where are we at? This is where we want to be at. Is this something feasible that we can get done? If the answer is no, then maybe they pull the trigger and they move on from it. But in no way are they forced in a decision to make a snap decision on what to do with him. Why? Because he's still under contract for this year and they hold 2 more years of rights in the franchise tags. So for the next 3 years, the 49ers have full control of Brandon Ayuk. He chooses not to play. I don't think he gets paid. I think he gets fined. So that's where the 49ers are. They ultimately have, if I'm correct, the upper hand in this situation because his contract is valid and then they could franchise tag him going forward. So they don't have to make a decision. And if Brandon Ayuk wants to hold out, he's only going to hurt Brandon Ayuk. I understand.
Well, he reported yesterday, so he's not holding out.
No, of course. I'm just saying if it gets to the point where the draft comes and they say, listen, we're going to try to keep him, we're going to turn down all our offers, and they start going into negotiations leading up to camp, and there's no leeway and they're not budging, you want to make money, you got to come to work. You know what I'm saying? There's no paid vacation days or personal days. You practice, you get paid.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, look, his agent is looking at it one way right now. No matter what happens, no matter what team you're on, for the next 2 years, you're guaranteed at least $35 million. Between the 5th-year option number and the franchise tag, you are getting that guaranteed, no matter how you look at it.
Correct.
Right? But that still doesn't like get you the long-term contract versus the trade value and maybe bring in a rookie where you can get some cap relief now and do some other I don't know, man. I just feel like if they're going to make a move, it has to happen before the draft. If it doesn't happen before the draft, he's definitely here to the end of this season. I don't think there's going to be an in or during the season trade. No. I'll tell you what, there is one way, and I don't have any wood to knock on it. This is a fake wood grain. I'll knock on that. There is one way I can see Brandon Ayuk being traded mid-season, and that's if Purdy goes down early, and the Niners are saying this season's over. Let's go ahead and clear some stuff out. Let's get some cap cleared out, and they'll start to move some guys that they maybe didn't want to hold on to or were up in the air about. Where they can get some value for the next year and start to prepare for that.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying.
So you mentioned a shift in the defensive tackles, right? You go from 6'8", 6'7" to 6'2", 6'3" guys. You got 6'5" Javon Kinlaw on his way out. You got 6'4" Collins or whatever. And then there was the other what's the other defensive tackle's name?
Jordan Elliott, Gross Matos.
Matos and yeah, so they get smaller in there. Is there a change coming with the way the Niners use that front four? These guys seem shorter and wider. They seem more like they're going to be stout and harder to move against the run, that lower center of gravity. Is there a change coming in the way that Chris Kocurek does things or the defensive philosophy? I know you talked about some Fangio type stuff going on. Like, what do you think?
I think I think that's a possibility. I think it could be a little slight, nothing crazy. My issue is this: the wide nine is a very tough alignment to stop the run because of how wide everybody is and the gaps are monstrous. It's more of a way to align on passing situations, and I don't have a problem using it in passing situations. I just feel that during rundowns, I feel that they should be going more. If they say Kyle loves that Seattle front, you should go more to the under-over look with the defensive tackle and the cock position on the center. I just want to see them shore up that run game. I don't want teams gassing them up the middle anymore. And I think part of the solution could be adding these pieces plus somebody potentially in the draft and adding depth so when the rotation takes place, fresh legs and still quality players behind them.
Right. Huh. So, based off of everything you've seen this year, you got Collins, two other defensive tackles that have come in place of Eric Armstead's departure and Javon Kinlaw's departure. Hargrave, it turns out, was injured, and he's reportedly healthy now and ready to come back. He should be good to go the start of the season. You got Nick Bosa coming back, who admitted that, it took him almost half the season to start feeling like himself again.
Mm-hmm.
You got Lenore, who you feel so confident in that you can get an inside guy or an outside guy to play. You got Ward under one more year of the contract. I mean, this year is setting up really, really nicely for the 49ers. And then you also were fortunate enough to bring back all 5 of your starting offensive linemen in another season.
Mm-hmm. Where
do you go with the top pick in this draft, Tony? What's the biggest need? Is the very first pick in this draft for the 49ers a pick for 2025?
See, I'm split on that. I have the mentality where this draft needs to be hit out of the park as far as pieces for this year and pieces adding and building towards the future to try to keep this window open or extend the window to be time for the window to be open, right? They need to rebuild the centerpiece of this roster under controllable salaries, but getting good quality contributors. I think they need 4 impact players, 4 contributors from this draft, whether it's special teams related, whether it's situational pass rusher, whether it's a situational corner or something, a nickel or a third corner that comes in, whether it's a receiver, a second back, whether it's a lineman. They need pieces. They need pieces to contribute and improve the play going forward for this roster. So, with that being said, the 31st pick, personally, I don't see them going up top 15, top 18, or even top 20. I think for what they need, it would not – I don't think they would cough that up and give up what it would take to get there, but then not have the ability to add more pieces to the puzzle, right? So it's kind of like a catch-22. Yes, you want to go get your guy, but then if you're going to go get your guy, that guy better be a year-one contributor, because now you're losing assets to add pieces to this puzzle. So essentially, if you pull the trigger and go up, he's a starter. That's the way I look at it. Now, on the flip side of it, there's another way that I look at it. All the corners we signed, 1-year deal. If we sign a safety in free agency, 1-year deal. It's going to be, right? Next year, the only person under contract for the San Francisco 49ers in that starting secondary is Jair Brown. That's it. That's an issue.
You think what's the issue with Brown?
He's the only player under contract out of all the starters this year.
Right.
That whole secondary is gone. So now decisions need to be made. Who's going to be part of the plan moving forward that you will extend? Will it be Mooney? Will it be Lenore? Will it be both Mooney and Lenore? Will it be either? Will it be none? This is where
this is Hufunga's third year.
That's his fourth year. He's a free agent. His contract's up at the end of this year.
Rookie year, Pro Bowl, then there was this year. This is his third year, isn't it?
This is a fourth year. He came in with Aaron
serious?
Banks. Aaron Banks is a free agent, yes. This is where the 49ers could be in a little bit of a situation where I don't think the aggression is to go up and get a starter. I think their ideal situation would be a quarterback is there at 31 and they trade out and they get more picks. When I say trade out, you're not going to the bottom of round 2. I think you're going to be moving to the top 5 picks in round 2. And you add the pieces that you feel you need that could help this roster next year, as well as add pieces to build, to replenish your foundation of this team, whether it's a tackle, whether it's a defensive tackle. Because I'm telling you now, if you look at the way this roster is constructed, your interior defensive line could be all new next year. Your right tackle, left guard, center could all be new next year. Everybody but Jair Brown could be new in the secondary. Dre Greenlaw is a free agent. There's a lot of pieces that they can move on from next year. So now you're talking about how are we replacing all these pieces and able to start negotiations with Brock Purdy. That's why I think the 2024 NFL draft is super crucial for the 49ers going forward.
Okay, so
But as far as your question, 31, my ideal situation, the quarterback falls, they move down a couple slots and pick up extra picks. If they don't, I think they stick to their board and they truly go BPA. Whether it's a DT, a corner, a wide receiver, a right tackle, a center. I'm being serious.
I know you are, and I'm gonna hit you with a tough question. There's some people that I've heard say 6 quarterbacks can go in the first round. I've heard some people say only 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think 3.5 is the over/under. I think it's 3, no more than 4. If BPA is a quarterback, the Niners aren't taking the quarterback.
No. Obviously, they're not taking the quarterback. I'm talking about BPA as far as what their needs are. When they construct their board, they're not putting a quarterback at 31. They're putting everybody that they feel that they need, positions of needs, and they rank them on their BPAs off of what their roster is calling for. Example, DT, DE, corner, safety, linebacker, wide receiver, starting tackle, starting guard, starting center, because all those places can be replaced next year. They can move on from everybody, every position group that I just rattled off to you, they can move on from next year. One person from one of those groups. Maybe even multiple. We don't know.
And they've got a couple of linemen who are on their last year of deals also.
All right.
Both guards. Both guards on their last year.
Yeah. They probably can move on from Brendel. If they win it all, Trent Williams could retire. Guess what? Now you don't have an offensive line.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this draft is going to be the make or break for the 49ers this year. I really do. I think they have to get away from doing the developmental thing. I think they need to add players that just need polishing, not development. Like, you can't draft a Nick Zakelj type player in your first 4 selections. You need to draft a guy that was a proven successful starter at the collegiate level. All right. Put great film up, great timing up, excellent everything. But that player is going to be the best player on your board the way you have him ranked as far as player skill set and positional need.
It sounds like our draft board is going to be just close your eyes and just throw.
It sounds like you're not even doing it. Honestly, you're not even doing a draft board this year. You can't do a draft board. You'll be insane. You really can't. I'm telling you. I sat here and tried to doodle one. Dude, it was 15, 20. It was 15 deep at each position. Easily. It was 15 deep at each position. Do the math. You put 2. What I did, just doodling that work one night. Right? It was slow.
Right.
I just doodled it. I took 2 players per position group per 7 rounds. It's 14 players.
So let me ask you this.
Then you got to rank them? Get the hell out of here. You'll be crazy.
Does that make this upcoming draft more exciting or more nerve-wracking for you? Or both. Because
both.
Like that excites the hell out of me.
It's very exciting because it's so nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have no idea which way they're going to go. You got to be locked in and watching the whole time now.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea where they're going to go. The Niners are the team that can destroy someone else's draft board every time they pick.
Correct.
The Niners are the team that are probably going to get the most calls to trade. You got to remember, last draft, we didn't trade at all.
Correct.
We stayed put for the first time in John Lynch's entire tenure here at every pick. We did not trade.
No, we did trade up. We traded up for Jair Brown.
Oh, so maybe it was the draft before.
It was the year before, correct.
It was the year before we didn't move.
This
year, I think the phone could ring at every pick, and they could not maybe do it, but they can entertain every single call that comes in this year.
100%.
Every single call. And
that
doesn't exclude them from moving up. If they have 5 tackles that are projected to go in the top 15, and one of them falls to 22, 23, the Niners very well could be on the phone.
They could. They could, but I don't think they do that. I don't.
If you had to pick one position, Tony, just one, where you're going to upgrade with the first round talent, what position would it be? Just one. It's got to. If I had to pick it today, let me answer first, and you tell me if you agree or disagree and where you would go. If I had to pick it today, knowing the current way the roster is, the injuries that we're playing with, and who's not going to be here going forward, it might have to be safety for a Talanoa Hufanga replacement.
See, I think that's different. I wouldn't say safety. You're going to think I'm crazy what I'm about to say. Let's look at the draft and all the position groups, right? All your elite position groups are highly sought after position groups. Left tackle, wide receiver, corner, pass rusher, defensive tackle. I think all
Oh my God, I know what you're going to say.
No, what am I going to say?
You're going to say center, aren't you?
I think that could be a situation. I think because just think about it, right? Just hear me out. And just hear me out, right? If there's let's say there's 6 offensive tackle goes. 6 offensive tackles. We'll say 4 quarterbacks. That's 10 selections. We'll say at least 3 wide receivers. That's 13 selections. A tight end. That's 14 selections. We'll say 2 pass rushers. That's 16 selections. Throw 2 oddball picks in there because there's always those 2 every year. You're at 18 selections, right? And that's like, kind of like sticking with the flow of going with all top personnel, all top players, and best BPA for these teams in those situations. That could potentially push down a center, like the center from Oregon, into the 49ers' lap, right? Now, if we say, I think we all could say, listen, Brendel's been good for the 49ers, but Brendel's also on the wrong side of his career. 33 going into this season. I don't know if he turns 34 during the season, but they need to make a decision there, right? Two no guards. It's such a tough scenario to be in and try to figure out and try to project and set up boards and ranking. Listen, I'm going to rank, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do my 14 players per position group, and that's it. I'm not.
Yeah, you can't. It's almost impossible to set a draft order. You can only set your board. You can only select the players that you like.
Yeah,
the players that you think are fits.
It's crazy, bro. I mean, I could see multiple scenarios. I could see them taking a tackle at right. I could see them taking a tackle at 31. I could see them taking a center at 31. I could see them taking a defensive tackle at 31. If a pass rusher falls, other than Chop Robinson, because, well, I'm not going there with that. But if someone falls.
Whoa. I'm not letting you walk away from that. You think he's overhyped, don't you?
Yeah. I do.
Oh, I love it. Why? Yep.
Well, what is he known to be?
Tell me. I don't know. I haven't got.
I know the answer to my question.
I don't know. I don't know what the hype is about with him either. So that's what I'm trying to ask you.
He's a pass rusher, right? He's a pass rusher. He's the probably allegedly the top ranked pass rusher in his draft, and it's not a knock against him. It's not. He is a phenomenal athlete. He does have an explosive first step. But if I said to you, "Hey, listen, you got this kid coming from Penn State. He's a pass rush specialist, explosive first step. He literally blew the underwear Olympics out of the water, but he has 8 sacks in 3 years."
I would say Nick Bosa had similar production in sacks coming out of college.
Two different types of players. One is totally polished and the other one's not.
I agree. I'm just letting you know that that's what the naysayers are going to give you pushback on, is that Nick Bosa's production wasn't the highest when he came out. But
Nick
now
Bosa had an 8 sack season and he had a double-digit sack season, didn't he? And then he had the core injury. Yeah, he had a highly. I think he had one season where he had double-digit. Or was that the season that he was on pace and he got hurt?
I could be wrong. I don't remember Nick Bosa having a double-digit sack season in college. It's very likely I'm wrong. I don't remember. I thought it was Chase Young that was like tearing shit up, not Bosa. Bosa just looked polished and looked like professional, like pro ready, you know. But I am completely open to being wrong. I kind of like where you're going with an interior lineman being, you could get the best center or the best guard in this draft if you just stay put and get that guy.
That's like that. If you truly want to go with the top ranked best player position group on the board at that time, it's going to push that center down to you. But the question is, will he play a rookie?
Right.
So
that's the thing. And that's the other question I want to get to you with. Our first 2 picks, I feel like, have to be home runs. But does that mean that they have to play this year? Think about that for a second before you answer it, and let me give you my little diatribe on it, right? Whether it be wide receiver, no wide receivers just coming in here and taking Juwan Jennings' job. You're definitely not taking Debo or Ayuk's job. That's not likely to happen. You look at offensive linemen. More important than physical talent is chemistry. I can't say with any level of certainty that someone's going to come in here and just make this offensive line day one. I can't say now. Maybe you get in week 5 or 6, right after some serious reps and working and practicing and things like that. But I don't think you're coming in here day one and just taking a job from Brindle or even Burford for that matter, right? I just don't think you're doing that. You're definitely not coming in and just taking John Feliciano's job. I actually think he was a solid guy. So then that takes you to tight ends, maybe a tight end 2, but how many 2 tight end sets are we running where he's going to be a starter day one, right? I mean, I don't think that's likely to happen. And then that takes you to the secondary. I think between Yidam, Ambry Thomas is another guy that's going to be hard to beat out for a roster spot. You're definitely not coming in here and beating Lenore or Mooney out for their spot. You might have Huff's position available. Does there have to be a day one starter selected with 31 or 64?
A day one starter would be a bonus, but I think a day one contributor would be the goal.
Contributor is the goal. Starter is a luxury. Yeah?
Yes. Starter would be an ideal situation.
So interesting, man. It's so interesting. Tony, what are your plans for the draft? Let's go ahead and talk about it now. Let's let the people know what's going on. And I'll let you guys out there know I have put the worm on the hook and I have thrown the reel into the water. I am trying to bait Tony into coming with me for a draft show for the weekend. I have thrown it out there. I don't have Kim's number, so I can't call and butter her up. But I have thrown it out there, guys. I have put it in the air. I have put the worm in the water. Tony, what are your plans for it?
TBD.
Yeah, just like the draft board for the Niners. Oh God. Oh man. Are there any other thoughts that you want to leave the people with? I got about 2 more minutes in here before I have to get off.
No, that's it. That's where we're at right now. You know, it's very fluent. It's going to change every day. You're going to see all these people coming in with visits. I see a lot of people coming in visits that I really like. And I see Rich SF in here saying he hates seeing some of the media taking Roger Rosengartner at 31. Rich, I really like him. He might not be the biggest name. He might not be the biggest player. He might not be the highest rank, but he does what the 49ers need from their right tackles, and he does it at a good job, at a good pace.
He went back and forth in college, right? What side did he play on?
He was on the right side.
Is he strictly a right guy?
Side. I think he had a handful of starts on the left side, but he was predominantly a right tackle, in which they say your best tackles block the quarterback's backside, don't they?
You like him more than Guyton? Or you think Guyton's going to be out of reach for the Niners?
I like him a little bit better than Guyton. If I noticed some things with Guyton that I didn't, it put like a little flag on me. It's not. Listen, it's just his inexperience, Mike. It's nothing against him. He's still very inexperienced. He's still a little raw, and he needs developmental time. He needs time in a weight room, an NFL weight room. But there's some things I noticed on some of his tape that are bad habits that they're going to have to break out of him. I'm not questioning him as a player. I think he could be a good tackle. But I think for what the 49ers want their tackles to do, I think Rosengartner, I think Kingsley from BYU, I like the kid Wallace from Penn State in the latter rounds. There's some tackles in there that do what the 49ers require their right tackles to do and do it well.
I tell you what, if we're going to draft a tackle, please, for the love of God, get a guy that naturally plays on that side. I am done with the experimenting of, let's get a left tackle and make him a right tackle and vice versa. I don't want to see that anymore. Not in the first round. Not at 31. Honestly, not at 64 either. If you're going to get a guy that plays on that committed side, and then you work with him and groom him. I am done with the experiments on the defensive line and the offensive line. I don't take a guy that plays defensive tackle and try to make him an edge. You know, the days of the Contavious Street, that should be over for the 49ers. This team is too good. We are too good to sit back and try to experiment with top-end talent. You want to do that on other positions? Cool. My personal opinion. I don't want to see it happening where we are, where we sit with our first 2 picks. I don't want to see that at all. At all. But that's going to make this all the more interesting, man. All the more interesting. So we'll see what happens. My last question for you, because who knows, God knows the next time we're going to be able to get you on here. with the change of the kickoff rules, what type of player
Debo.
would you? What does that do for his career?
Extends it. Not extends it, but
It increases his value for sure. I'll give you that. It definitely drives his value through the roof. I will give you that. But what does that do for his career?
I don't know. It could be bad. It could be good. We don't know.
It could only make his career longevity worse. Right? It can improve it.
I don't know with him, bro. I don't know.
All right. I don't want to get negative or anything. All right, guys, listen, that's going to do it, man. Tony, I really, really enjoyed this episode, man. It was good having you on again. Guys, if you don't know where to find Tony already, the name is right there on the screen. Oh, never mind. It just says Tony. He's NJ9erFan499 on Twitter. I tried to pop it up there at the end, but it's NJ9erFan499 on your Twitters or your X or whatever you like to call it. Make sure you guys get there. Give my man a follow. He's a good follow over there. And that's going to do it for today's episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Live from the Kia. We were kicking in the Kia, but we went live instead. No music or anything like that. We got to hear from our resident GM, and it was a phenomenal show. Tony, thanks a lot for joining, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Guys, prepare for glory.
Anticipate pain.
But always
remain faithful.
We're out of here, guys. Peace.
We all gas, no brakes, pumped up, no fakes. We spinning, we winning, we high stakes. We never miss, we all makes. Look at us dudes trying to prove, bringing you news with nothing to lose. Mike, Nick, Tony, Wayne, Method Man, we bring the pain. Hey. See, I'ma confess it. We under the pressure. If you looking to find us, we them nothing but niners.